Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, my name's Izzy and I collect cool to hot growing orchids here in my apartment in Sydney. Today I've got an orchid spotlight for you on one of my favourite and most unusual orchids, the Encyclia Cochleata Alba. I actually just want to start the video by saying a huge thank you so much to everyone who watches my videos and everyone who's subscribed as well. We've actually just hit 200 subscribers, which is a huge milestone for me, and I couldn't have done it without the support from you guys. So if you're new here and you're enjoying the content, please consider hitting subscribe. It really helps to support me and my channel, and it encourages me to continue to make new videos for you guys to enjoy. Thanks again, guys. All right, on with the video. This particular orchid was previously known as Encyclia Cochleata Alba, but it has now been reclassified as Encyclia Cochleata Alba, and it's the albino or albino version of the national flower of Belize. One of my favorite things about the Alba form is it's actually a smaller and more compact grower than the Encyclia Cochleata, but it is definitely a little bit more tricky to find, so if you do come across one, definitely best to snap it up straight away. It has these really unique and unusual, long-lasting and fragrant flowers, which I love. It's also known as the cockleshell orchid because of the shape of the flowers look a bit like a cockleshell, particularly the top labellum that's upside down. But in my opinion, I think they actually look more like a little squid or octopus or even jellyfish. You can probably see here. They're really cute. I think the Alba version's really pretty. I actually prefer it from the normal Encyclia Cochleata. I'm not sure how they compare fragrance-wise, but this one, it's really hard to describe. It has a really beautiful sweet scent. It's very soft as well. You don't really notice it unless you go up to the flower and actually give it a sniff. And I've been so excited about this one blooming that it currently only has 2 flowers open. It does have quite a few more buds and things up there that you can probably see. And down the bottom, I'll turn you around. Down the bottom here, I'll just cover my face so it doesn't try and focus on me. You can probably see where my thumb is. There's another spike coming up next to it, so it's it's the same spike, but it's just branching out a little bit, which is really exciting. In terms of care for this particular orchid, it is a warm grower, which works really well for me in Sydney most of the year round. It prefers temperatures between 21 to about 33 degrees Celsius, and it does like a little bit of a cool down in the evening or overnight to encourage blooming. Being an Encyclia, this one likes bright indirect light. It doesn't particularly appreciate direct sun. As you can see, some of the leaves are a little bit burned as it did get a little bit of direct sun. I normally keep this one here on the balcony, which is why I'm filming outside today. And it does get a little bit of direct morning sun, but only for a very short period of time. And then it pretty much just gets bright indirect light for the rest of the day, which it seems to love. Humidity wise, things online say this orchid needs moderate to high humidity, anything above 80%. In my experience growing it outside, most of the time in Sydney, the humidity is relatively high. I'd say 60% and above, but it's not always over 80% by any means. And this orchid is still thriving and it's still blooming, so it's happy enough. I wouldn't be too concerned about the humidity. You probably just wouldn't want it to be too much lower than 50% for extended periods of time. Worst comes to worst, bring it inside for a little bit where you can control the humidity a bit more, pop it next to a humidifier maybe, and that should just help to give it a little bit more of a boost. In regards to watering, this orchid does need to be given the opportunity to thoroughly dry out in between waterings. When you water it thoroughly, I use my hose on the mist function so it gets a little bit of a longer watering and make sure all the roots in the medium are soaked. It is in a very free draining mix for that purpose, to allow it to dry out. Otherwise, Encyclias can be subject to rot. So you can see here, nice chunky bark, and then I also do have a few pieces of styrofoam in there as well, but you can see the bark is quite chunky, quite large pieces as opposed to smaller pieces. It just means a lot more air can be circulating around the roots as well. This one does really appreciate and need a lot of air movement also, which is also another reason why I have it outside where there's a little bit of a breeze on the balcony. It can dry out a bit faster, and generally most orchids will do better when you've got good air movement. Good air movement also just helps to prevent fungal issues as well. I do also regularly fertilize this orchid as well, which I think it really appreciates. When it's in active growth, I use this orchid food. This is just from Bunnings. There's not actually much left in this container, but I'll show you a little bit so you can get a bit of a sense of it. It comes with a little scoop, and I just use 1 gram per 1 litre of water. Sorry, you probably can't really see that. 1 gram, so the little one's 1 gram, the big one's 5 grams, 1 gram per litre of water. Because it is a powdered fertilizer, just allow it a couple of minutes to properly dissolve into the water before you use it. I also like to make up bulk fertilizer in these shoulder sprayers. These ones are 5 litres. I just find it really helps when you're trying to fertilize lots of orchids, as you can see behind me. And I really like that it's a nozzle. It has a mist, well, its nozzle normally is just a mist function, so it does actually last you quite a while, and it allows you to give each orchid a really good soak. So I have one shoulder sprayer that I've got labeled as the growth fertilizer, and one that I've got labeled as an orchid bloom booster as well. So I'm currently giving the Cochleata this one at the moment while it's in bloom. I switched from the growth to the bloom when I noticed it was getting a spike, just so that you can hopefully prolong the blooms as long as possible. These ones are actually quite long lasting. From memory, last time it flowered, I believe the flowers lasted to maybe 3 months. It was definitely longer than a month. So this one's great if you want something long lasting. In regards to flowering, it normally flowers in spring and summer, and it will only flower off new pseudo bulbs that have recently matured. So you can see this is the bulb that it's flowering off at the moment. It's nice and well hydrated. If they're not well hydrated, you'll notice they get a few wrinkles. This one, when it transitioned from when I brought it home from the grower to home, it did suffer a little bit of stress. Some of the bulbs shriveled up a little bit, but they've plumped up nicely again now. It can also be kind of tricky in winter and the cooler months when you're watering them less frequently because they're not drying out as quickly. Sometimes they do go through a little bit of dehydration, but as the weather starts warming up and you're watering it more regularly and it's drying out more quickly, generally it will perk up again, so don't worry too much. It also does have a couple more new growths, so one here and one here. So hopefully when they mature, they might give me flower spikes as well. Should be probably towards the end of summer, so we'll see. I've only had this one for about just under a year now, and this is the first time it's flowered for me under my own growing conditions. It had some flowers when I got it from the grower. I forgot to mention this is from Roland Orchids as well, who I've mentioned before, who's a grower in Queensland, and I just absolutely fell in love with this little guy when I saw it at his nursery. It's so different from quite a lot of the other orchids I've got, and anything cute that reminds me of a little animal or something is like one of my favorite things ever. I really just love the Alba form as well. Personally, I think it's prettier than the normal Cochleata, but yes, I would really recommend this orchid to anyone who is looking for something a little bit cute and a little bit different, and its care is really easy. The only other thing I'd say is in winter last year, I did have it inside because I was a bit worried the temperatures were getting too low for it outside. It may have been fine, but I'm just super paranoid. And we were getting nighttime minimums that were below 10 degrees Celsius here, which is somewhat unusual for Sydney. So if you live somewhere that's a little bit cooler, or like me, that gets a bit of a change in temperature over winter and it cools down quite a lot, particularly overnight, maybe just bring it inside for a couple of months so that it doesn't get cold burned. As long as you can still offer it relatively high humidity and bright indirect light, should be nice and easy. Alrighty, well that's everything I've got for you today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Please give me a like and press subscribe if you'd like to see more of my orchid content, and pop a nice comment down below if you'd like to, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!